In the year of 2018, our legendary survival game DayZ had been introduced to a new competitor, and that is Scum. From the outer shell, Scum was heavily inspired by DayZ, and that is a clear statement. Although the game promised a bright future in its upcoming days, from its first impressions the game came off extremely complicated, and mainly due to its core system, which is nutrition. Unlike DayZ, where you are heavily dependent on clean food sources, the developer of Scum, Gamepires, decided to take that element to a whole nother level. Not only obtaining a valued diet will furthermore help you in your journey, but it would also impact your appearance and your performance in your survival. Unlike DayZ, where you just have to focus on eating the right amount of clean food, Scum's nutrition goes beyond that. In Scum, you must consume the proper amount of protein, carbs, fats, and vitamins. Based on your character's diet, it will determine what kind of performance you would expect out of your character. And just to clear things up for you guys, no, you will not die due to the lack of nutrients. So if you're carb depleted, that will simply make your character just get tired a lot quicker. But that is it. You're only starving if you have no food in your belly. You can literally just eat meat and survive just fine. Now, your performance will be terrible, but hey, at least you're alive. Scum also offers a complex skill point system. For instance, the more you carry, the stronger you become. The more you run, the better your endurance is. The more you eat, the bigger you get. The more the lack is in your caloric requirements, the more weight you lose and the weaker you become, which makes your interactions with other players that much more realistic. For instance, let's say you encounter another player that is very skinny. You could just tell right there on the spot that not only that player has trouble consuming the right food or even finding food in that matter, but you could also determine whether they're the right fit for your team or not. And that is of course if you initially were not planning on killing that individual to begin with. They could either benefit you or slow you down in your personal journey. For example, let's say you need somebody fast for a certain operation. Well, you're better off having someone skinnier, right? Because they're a lot quicker. Or let's say you just don't have a transportation and you need some strength carrying all this weight and supplies. Well, then you'd need to find somebody a lot bigger and more muscular in that case. Therefore, a skinny guy will not be the right fit for you. Because of this core mechanic in Scum, every player brings a certain value to the game. So before instantly shooting someone on sight, you have to second guess whether you should either try to kill that individual or recruit them instead. Even though Scum was initially released in 2018, it was announced halfway through 2016, which means that by the time Scum became even somewhat in playable state, it was in early development for approximately 2 years prior to the beta state, which is fairly impressive for the game that is Scum's size. During the time Scum was officially released in beta state, the game managed to sell over 1 million copies. But then the third week of sale, when it launched in early access, since then the numbers have changed drastically. Despite an extraordinary number of updates and most importantly great communication, the numbers have gone as low as 3,000 to 4,000, which is very scary to say the least. And obviously comparing these numbers to other survival games, that's just not good. This is a sign that is raising a red flag, and if it's not properly managed, this could very well kill the game instantaneously. So the question that was raised amongst other creators and even the developers themselves was, what is happening to Scum and what is it that we can do to prevent this from going even further down? Can we even make a comeback, or is it a lost cause? To give you the simplest explanation as to why the numbers went down quite drastically would be because of its hardcore realism. Yeah, you encounter players and zombies as you loot around, but ironically, the thing that stood out the most about the game was the thing that was going to bring it down as well, and it's nutrition and eating in this game. Now, if you're a hardcore survivalist and you like the challenge, that might have never been an issue for you. But you have to keep in mind that there's plenty of casual gamers out there that like the concept of survival, but they want it pretty easy. And it's not to say that there's anything wrong with that, it's just at the end of the day you have two different groups of people. You've got hardcore survivalists that play games like DayZ and find it very interesting and entertaining because of its realism, but then there is another group of people who wouldn't mind a little challenge, however they wouldn't want it to be overly complicated because they want to play it casually and just have fun. I've told this so many times before and I'll just say it again, I never looked at DayZ as a survival game, it was more like a simulator if anything. And same applies to Scum. Yeah, it can certainly be a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, you can't make everyone happy. And obviously nutrition is what defines Scum in the bigger picture, and changing that would be like switching Need for Speed to a puzzle game. It just wouldn't make sense. Also, the game is heavily based on RPG system, and some people just don't like that. Scum has a very complex upgrading system that evolves on its own based on your personal gameplay. Some people just like putting points manually in one specific criteria, just like in old school, and Scum doesn't work like that. Basically, the concept of Scum certainly stands out from its competitors, and it brings out something totally different to the table. Unlike many other survival titles out there, instead of completely relying on the basic linear zombie apocalyptic storyline, Scum offers a little twist on its own. You play as a prisoner that is dropped to the prison island, and within the first couple of days you start to realize that this is more than just an island or even a punishment. It's more like a TV survival series, to say the least. As you run around the map, you will encounter the wildlife, zombies, players, and robots that will pose a serious threat during your journey. The more days you survive or simply play on the same server, the more you rank up and stand out from everyone else on the server. For instance, when you first start, your rank is at its lowest it'll ever be. Then as you progress throughout the game by literally just running around and looting buildings and simply surviving, you begin to gain XP points, which will automatically increase your rank/experience on the server. Now, when you begin your Scum journey, killing other players doesn't become the main task in the game like some other, hardcore survival PvP titles out there. Simply teaming up with other players on the server will ultimately make your survival experience a whole lot easier, but it will not affect you in any other way. I do want to get this point across though, in case it becomes misunderstanding, likewise in DayZ. When you encounter players, it is to your best judgment to either trust that player or simply kill them on sight. Just as mentioned earlier in this video, Scum is sort of like a stepson to DayZ. Even though it offers its own twist and uniqueness, it is heavily inspired by DayZ. The server you begin to play on will consist of 64 players or less. It does offer a single player mode, which is absolutely beautiful in this type of game, and let me explain. When I first laid my hands on DayZ, I quite literally had to learn the hard way. I kept on dying so many times by other players and never got the chance to learn the game. Not until I actually had to rent my own server with my own money. And that's when I finally started to learn how to play DayZ. Now, the reason I admire Scum is because you can simply play solo and learn the game. There's no reason for you to spend money, extra money, simply because you want to learn how to play it. And my advice for you would be just play solo, and once you feel comfortable enough to play with other players, then you can leave and play online. I wish that option was available in DayZ. I've been a huge fan of DayZ from its early development. I love the concept of it and the realism it brought to us. But because the game was built on an older engine, and in consideration how massive the game is to this day, the game runs poor and hasn't left the beta state ever since. Some glitches get fixed, but then it brings out other issues. Even the driving in DayZ hasn't been fixed, and it's been an issue for the longest time. You know, when you exceed the speed while driving, the game can literally just throw you randomly underneath the map, or it could just crash and it gets pretty nasty. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And it's not to hate on the game, it's just a harsh reality of its current state. And yes, even though the game is heavily dependent on its community, it will forever remain as godfather to so many other survival games. DayZ is what started all of this, and we're just beyond grateful. But Scum managed to recognize the flaws that were present in DayZ, and they tried to work around those issues, and they wanted to make sure that they will not make the same mistakes. And they did avoid those mistakes. The first time I heard of Scum, I was simply afraid trying it out because of what DayZ had to go through. I acknowledged the fact that the game was heavily inspired by DayZ, and that was cool. And because of that, I judged Scum without purely doing the research on the game. That right there just convinced me that this title isn't for me. I refused to spend another $35 on the game that was similar to what I already had. I was just not up for it. But then months later, I was scrolling through my Steam list, just, thinking, looking around, seeing what was on sale, and I saw Scum once again on sale. And what stood out the most about Scum was the little label right next to it that was saying most reviews are positive. And I was like, there's no way. For the game being as complex as Scum, it must have bugs, glitches, and other broken things along with it. So to make a longer story even shorter, I was convinced to buy the game, especially because I did a lot more research prior to buying it. What I'm about to tell you guys, and please take this as from a gamer who has a passion for survival games and more importantly as a role player, rather than just a content creator. I love to roleplay, and mainly because of storytelling. and being able to make my own story within the game or even a character is something I live for. What Scum managed to do for me as a role player is something I can hardly have an explanation for. First and foremost, the game has been very good to me as far as performance goes. Now, I don't know what it used to be, but as of recording this video, the game runs phenomenal. And that is of course if your computer meets the requirements for this game in terms of graphics. But let's just assume that you have a decent computer and specs of this game meet the right criteria for your system. You have got to try this game out. Imagine playing DayZ and it hardly glitched or teleported you from one place to another. That would be pretty cool, right?
Oh my god. Kale's dead.
Well, you get that with Scum. The only problem that I do seem to have while I'm playing Scum is the loading screen. When you first boot the game, it takes about 4 or 5 minutes to start the game, but it has nothing to do with the performance. So I'd like to get that point across. On highly populated servers, sometimes I would have a screen tear where my screen would freeze for literally a split second, but that is only because of the high player encounters. You know, when you have 10-15 people in one area just trying to shoot each other, you know, jumping around super quick because of their high frame rate. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But it has never been like DayZ scenario where your screen is frozen for a while and then you come to find out that you're dead because you were frozen for just way too long, and the guy that was across from you shooting you, his screen was totally fine and obviously had a better reaction time. It's never been like that with Scum, at least from my experience. Now let's talk about the development team of Scum, and let me tell you why I value and respect these guys like no other. They have done such a phenomenal job performance-wise, gameplay-wise, however you want to look at this. They have come from 9 to 12 to 50, staff team, totally crushing it with updates and just simply communication. These guys are probably by far the most consistent developers out there. And I'm not exaggerating this when I say it. Communication is their stronghold, and that is clear as sky, you guys. For example, let's say they drop an update this week. Well, then the next week or even the week after that, they will let you know what they're currently working on. They don't have to do it. They don't have to tell you those things, but they do. They will update their community in pretty much everything they do. Whether it's a new vehicle they're working on as far as like the new models and everything, new buildings, new characters, new voiceovers, you name it. Or let's say there's a bug, and prior to the patch fix, they will let you know that they're working on it before even patch notes have been released in public, pretty much saying, hey, we realize there is an issue right now and we'd like to let you know that we're currently working on it. Consistency is their stronghold, and these guys are just absolutely phenomenal, and it really does show. As mentioned earlier in this video, the last couple of years or even a little bit before that, they nearly lost the game, which is pretty sad to think about, because these guys are so humble to the core, and to pull this through, they are absolutely incredible. These guys take their work to heart and they take it home as well. So everything you hear about this game right now is because I have passion for the game and I want these guys to succeed and get the recognition they deserve. Because of their work ethic and humbleness, I want to support them and show my appreciation for them. Now, recently realizing that the current player count for Scum is roughly 18,000, which is very low for the game, their size, and most importantly for the effort they're putting into it. It's just sad, and these guys deserve a lot better. Prior to Scum's release date, the company almost went bankrupt on 3 numerous occasions, and not everyone manages to pull through it, and somehow they did. Now, the game is not perfect by any means. It still has minor issues that need to be taken care of and polished before it initially hits 1.0. But those minor issues are something you would normally expect to see in the beta state anyways. As we speak, Scum is almost 3/4 down the road before it even hits 1.0, so they still have plenty of time to improve and possibly even flip the game completely. They also just recently released 0.6.19 patch, which welcomed a couple of new items like Phoenix tiers and new mechanical improvements as well as performance. I think what they're trying to do as of right now is release all the big things first, and then once the title gets close to 1.0, they will just take all that remaining time and focus on just polishing everything. That way, when the game leaves the beta state, so they say, there won't be any bigger things lined up on its way, because those bigger things are what tends to break the games anyways. But then I could be wrong. Maybe they have something completely different in mind. Currently, they're trying to implement settlements and currency into the game, and that's where that RPG system really shines. Personally, I have never experienced anything like that in any other survival game, especially in the game that is heavily based on DayZ. So seeing a feature like that is something I'm extremely excited about. Also, we're about to get parachutes and airplanes in Scum, and that will certainly bring out a whole different look to the game. I mean, imagine raiding other players or even shooting someone as they slowly glide through the forest. Also, I heard they're working on bringing AIs to the game, sort of like military personnel that will be scattered throughout the map. You know how they already have like these huge robots protecting high loot bunkers? Well, now we're about to have soldiers as well. And Gamepires promises that if we don't find them, they will find you. So we shall see. If there was anything I missed in this video, please comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on Scum in general. Have you played it? Did you stop? Why did you stop? Or are you currently playing? Do you have a server? What are you excited about in the near future for this game? If this video was helpful in any way, please consider subscribing and hitting YouTube where it hurts. I mean, just hit that like button. I plan on doing more review videos on this channel, and I play other survival games, and Scum will certainly be added to that list. I want to support these guys so bad. They deserve to get the recognition for their hard work, and I hope one day it pays off for them. Anyways, this was your boy Roos, and I'm out, folks. Peace.